how poetic would it be if the next one was, since the first one was wind, as far as being able to fly across the whole entire expanse of the world, and the second one is earth, as far as spelunking, being able to traverse throughout the entire like caverns of the earth. The next one would then be water. And so it seems like it's being set up pretty well, as far as if you look at the inside of the shrines, you'll notice that it's actually a whole separate world that you could already see. And even the way that the physics works around the Zoro domain is already set as if it's a different form of gravity. So what if there was just experimentation already being done, and it's happening pretty much inside of the shrines, and you can see it right before you? Well, the animation for it, you can see it clearly through the the wavering patterns, the bubbles, the color, and everything of this. So there'd have to be limitations, of course, to swimming. So it would be something like air. As far as I don't think it'd be stamina. It'd have to be its own separate thing other than stamina. But I have high suspicion that the limitations would be that zona objects would be too big to fit into certain caverns, which would have, stalactites and stalagmites that would filter them. But you would actually be able to swim, but not swim very deep unless you were to use a vessel. In that case, you'd be able to actually sink inside of a suit and walk on the surface of the water beneath, but only as long as the line would allow you to. And in that case, you would actually have gravity that's similar to pretty much Zoro's domain. And you would be able to get through those caves, those caverns, as far as you could get, while getting, free oxygen from the ship above. So it would work, yeah, it's just so poetically. They've already did the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, and that was supposed to be a trilogy. And so this, I'm pretty sure it would be very odd for it to not be a trilogy, being as it's like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And by Tears of the Kingdom, actually, I suspect that they would have spelt it T-I-E-R if it didn't, have more of a pun the other way. When you say it out loud, you actually pronounce it as in Tears of the Kingdom, as in layers of the kingdom. As much as but when you read it as tears, as in as in the more literal, if you're crying of joy or happiness, tears, like in the Sheikah symbol, tears, and then tears. No one calls the game Terrors of the Kingdom, so they call it Tears of the Kingdom, the way it's spelled homophonically with T-I-E-R and T-E-A-R. So the third one, I suspect, being as the whole world has just been, the upheaval happened, so the z-axis, as in going up and down, has been, y-axis, has been extremely expanded. And I really doubt they're going to continue that, because everything in the Sky Kingdom is basically not working out and crumbling and falling to the earth. And so the next place to really explore, besides going through the underworld again, is actually under the sea. To actually be able to go and explore under the waters, which would be pretty damn cool. The only issue is pretty much how do you make limitations under the water? There would have to be some way of making it so that there'd be some sort of invisible wall that wouldn't feel like invisible. It wouldn't feel like an actual invisible wall. You wouldn't feel like it would just be you'd just be walking and then just hit nothing, and feel like you're confined. So having it so that there's natural limitations that are just like in reality, where you could only go so deep without a suit, or with the use of a suit, you could only go as far as the actual pressurization of the suit would allow, and the oxygen supply of the suit would allow, using a vessel above and a cable that would actually let you sink deep and be able to land actually underneath and walk around and jump, similar to Zero's domain, and then jump again to swim back up to the shore. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna be exactly how the next Zelda is gonna be, except for there's gonna be, if you follow the path of, since Zelda Breath of the Wild was supposed to be a reboot of Zelda 1, this would be Zelda 2, which fits thematically as a pretty good, I guess, revivification, or like a, what's that called? It's not, I don't know, just basically like, the idea was, they said that if they would have been able to have the technology to make Zelda 1 today, this is what it would be like. And this would be then what Zelda 2 would be like. And so Zelda 3 would then be a matter of somehow making a link to the past. Something that is more within this technological space right here. And you'll notice that I've done lots of videos as far as like how they've made a whole entire platform, including the audio engine, and everything is like so well integrated together and seamless that even as you're falling into a cavern, the cavern isn't like some kind of invisible warp point that is just like a secret animation that's hidden, but is actually a cavern that you can slowly descend into, and it's completely seamless. It's so seamless that you could actually drop bombs at different points down the cavern, and it sounds exactly like as if there was a port pretty much down in the earth, where there's true distance down inside the earth, so it cuts off the high frequencies of the bomb explosion, and pretty much the sound diffuses from the textures of the wall. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but what Zelda is doing in this world, in Tears of the Kingdom, is basically doing like a Majora's Mask type thing, where she's basically trying to send as much help to you as possible through the past, and communicate to you through the past. While in the next one, I have a very high suspicion that you're going to be doing the same thing. So not only will there be a lot more, just not a lot more, will there just be the ability to just swim under the water, but also there will be zonai gear that will allow you to, or just, it might not even have, might call something else once we figure out more about the Zona and this post-apocalyptic world that this game takes place in, where it kind of takes place in like right between a time when people are living in like a reboot of a medieval ages and the future, where they actually have machines and technology that is ahead of our time. But yeah, it would just be so poetic, because of, think about the three dragons, right? You have one which is the water dragon, you have the other one which is lightning, or the earth dragon in other words, and then you have the other one which is fire. So it's fire, water, and I guess we call it ether, because that's what earth would be, right? What would you represent as an earth dragon other than lightning? How lightning seeks the ground, and electricity all comes from rare earth elements, and this game is all about rare earth, the collection and mining of rare earth elements. Mining is pretty much like core to this. And the next one, having the ability to swim, would allow this map to be just even more expansive and all-encompassing, and allow for it to be used in so many different ways, while being able to flip back and forth between the past and the present, and change things like the water level and things like that. Just like how back in the past the water was actually much higher or lower than it is now to be able to access certain places. That is that would be pretty cool, and I am really looking forward to that. And it seems like it is already something they're already developing. Like, it seems like the purpose of the shrines is to allow them to have a second world to work with that would eventually merge with the world as it is. If you remember the way that the ancient beasts worked in the past, you actually had they worked almost like a shrine where once you were inside an ancient beast, you could see around you where it looked like you could actually just leave, but you actually couldn't. It was actually just like if you try to like fly off, you just fall, right? Fly off like this, like for instance, like what was it called? What was that flying bird one? The pink ranger, I guess. Yeah, you would just end up falling, right? But in this one, you could actually just bounce, just leave while you're in the middle of doing one of the temples. And the next one, imagine if shrines were just as free, where you could actually just like the world was like just as open as being able to just go anywhere you want, including underneath the ocean. And what you're experiencing underneath in the shrines right now is basically a bubble inside of the underneath the ocean exploration parts. And that's basically where it's hidden. They're hidden inside little pockets of the ocean. And you can kind of see almost like an implication of that. If you look at the way that these are designed, they kind of look like they're actually little pockets of earth, like bubbles of earth. With like, I mean, I'm not trying to be a flat earther here, of course, but like, you know, the little bottom part is supposed to represent like a concaved earth, while like the top would represent like a spherical sky contained within a bubble. And then it makes and just yeah, so these are all like the consumables as far as like it's showing like consumerism, as far as hyper consumerism, how even like rockets and cannons you can get out of a gumball machine, and it is designed to break down as soon as you use them 3 times and it just dissipates into like dust. But if you look at the design of this, it's very Aquarian. Like it's everything has this aquamarine look to it. So I've always had this kind of Atlantean kind of um backstory, I guess, the way I would kind of retcon the way that the world worked. And the history of this world seems like it doesn't it encompasses a lot more than just like the sky and their attempts to terraform the sky. They clearly tried to terraform underneath the earth and basically left a world that was almost like pretty much a rust belt underneath. And that's completely putrid to the point where you there's no air, there's no moving currents of water. There's a few healing pools that happen to work out as basically what was the source of how Link was resurrected after 100 years in Breath of the Wild. But besides that, it's just like a whole entire really dead world where the only plants that could subsist are plants that could kill you or would kill you. You can't eat. They blow things up or they're used for bio warfare. And the rudimentary, most fundamental parts of technology, which is ore, rare earth elements that they call zoonite, which is actually, you know, not. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's literally what the world is warring over right now, is rare earth elements. But yeah, I see a lot of this suit right here, especially, and like his connection with Mifa, and how, you know, everyone seems to love, like like it just seems like the next stage, like this alpha here, is like very significant in this game. And you can't. I don't think the next one is gonna be just as sky intensive. That'd be kind of weird. But to have it be instead inverted and be deep sea, intensive, while still having an underworld, and still so that it would be all integrated, but then also have a second layer where basically you're just manipulating, like being able to travel, say, like 1,000 years into the past and see all these runes fresh and be able to change them in a way similar to how Zelda right now is changing the past to prepare and help you in the future. You'd be able to go to the past, swim around, change the water levels, almost like the whole world is a gigantic water temple puzzle, and free up and open up locations so that you could travel back into the future and access those locations. And yeah, there's a lot of clues if you keep your eyes open that is probably gonna be the case. That like that's why right now there is a lot of like just emphasis on like why is it all floaty on top of Zora's domain? It doesn't really explain that, right? And why is there so many? If you go into that place that kind of looks like the old what's the term? Cam. It's like Southeast Asia. There's this city called the region of Southeast Asia. It's pretty much around here. You see a lot of places that are like pretty much Southeast Asia, and there's a lot of stuff that's actually like submerged inside in the to the point where you can't access them. They're basically underneath the water already in this world. And so the only way you'd be able to access them is if you were able to change the water level somehow. And in this game, there isn't any way to change the water level. So I guess he was looking ahead to the next, like, about 6 years. And it looks like the team is very, very, hard at work doing that. And I have a feeling that Zora's domain is a huge playground for playing with the physics of that, and so is pretty much the second world you enter when you go into the portal of the shrines. I have a feeling that each of those shrines are actually connected, and there is a whole underwater world there that if you were able to break through those walls, there would actually be pockets of ocean where they're like caverns essentially, and those shrines are basically just portals into places underneath the ocean. So yeah, I wonder what you guys think about that. Sorry, this went on a bit too long. Thanks.